In the past 10 years, social networking has grown to be a constant part of our daily lives. Wherever you go, it seems like people are always on their phones or their computers. Popular sites such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and countless others attract more and more users each day. This has led to our current society being more connected, but at what cost? We've now arrived at a time where new generations will grow up with these modern technologies. How does social networking affect people now, and how will it affect the younger generations growing up with it their whole lives?
I use Facebook.
Facebook.
Facebook. Facebook.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Twitter.
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 I like looking at my friends' Twitters, but I don't have one. Twitter. And Twitter.
Instagram.
Instagram.
Snapchat. YouTube.
Vine.
Reddit. QuizUps. 4chan.
Pinterest, Tumblr, Skype, OK Hello, Ask FM, Kik. That's it.
It's a fair amount.
Well, I'm always on my phone, basically, like, simultaneously doing homework and, like, being on my phone.
I'm texting most of the day.
I feel like I'm always getting a text or something.
YouTube is a lot of the day as well, listening to music and stuff.
I mean, I spend a lot of time talking to people, but it's not all at one time.
It's broken up into like a few minutes, so that's why it doesn't really feel like a lot to kids our age.
You're constantly checking these things. They're popping up on your phone as notifications.
There's a lot of them, and it adds up to a lot of time.
It's 30 seconds at a time, but it's all the time.
I could add that all up, probably like 3 hours in total.
I'd say probably 3 hours if you add it up.
I think that's a tough question, but I think maybe 2.
3 hours?
At least around like 5 to 8. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think all the time there's miscommunications over text.
We do things, I think, a lot with volume and emphasis on syllables, where, the Chinese may do it with pitch of syllables and stuff like that, but you don't get that emphasis over text of the voice,
It's like you can't be sarcastic over text.
Sarcasm is hard to get across.
We read into it a lot, and the fact it's just blank text. There's no emotion in there.
It's not just words.
The way we read into it, they like insert our emotion and perception into it.
There's something that's lost in translation.
Like a period's like, why are you being so cold? Why are you like, is there a problem? Like, why are you trying to like brush me off? And it's just a period. It's a form of grammar. But the way our generation has been kind of raised with it is a one word with a period is kind of blunt and almost like a knife in the heart.
I sort of try at all costs to not get into deep conversations over text because I find that it's sort of always weird with the person when I see them in person or something like that, so I try to call instead.
I find it really irritating when people are texting like while I'm talking to them.
You take your phone out, you put it on the table, and then just in the middle of you flip it to look, see what happens. You check it in the middle of conversation, and then before too long, you're not actually even talking. You're both just looking at your phones.
A lot of people, instead of talking to their friends, like I have friends that sometimes instead of talking to people will just go on their phone if they don't want to interact with people around them.
Because that's more entertaining than the person across from you.
And it's kind of separating us because instead of talking to the person in person, then you could just send them a quick text. When people text on the phone or are typing away like while you're talking to them, that ruins the quality of like your social interaction with them because they're not fully listening.
When this is more entertaining than the person across from you, I think that's kind of sad, but it's hardly a fair fight.
You also don't really get meaningful conversation.
Yeah, I think it can sometimes create problems in people's relationships if they don't necessarily say what they mean, or if two people have different ways of communicating over social media, then maybe there's a disconnect between what they say, what they type, and what they are meaning to say.
When you text with someone, their messages is like, what's up? Nothing much. You. That was the typical 6th grade, 7th grade conversation.
So I know there was a report that came out not too long ago that I learned about through NPR. And what they found was kids that spent more time as kids in front of a screen had a positive correlation with emotional problems, behavioral problems, conduct problems. The brain is a very plastic organ, and so the more you practice something, the more brain space is devoted to that. If a kid is interacting with their peers, if they are playing on the playground, they're figuring out conflict resolution, then the brain is going to develop in that way, and they're going to be better able to deal with those situations when they arrive later on. If a kid is constantly on their iPad or playing video games, then that's what the brain is going to reprogram itself to work on. If a child, a toddler, or a 6-year-old, or even a teenager is constantly on a tablet, and that's the method that they're using to communicate with the world, I think that can be pretty dangerous.
Look around you. Everyone is constantly checking their phones. It's now become an instinct. In the past 10 years, we humans have communicated much more, but we all use a third party, and by doing so, we lose all sense of emotional inflection. Instead of experiencing the life around us, we experience the lives of others on a screen. Everything else becomes a blur. Things were different 10 years ago, and things will be different 10 years from now. Kids will have grown up with screens all around them their whole lives, and because of this, they'll lose their ability to communicate with one another face to face. How do we change this? By at least being aware of it. Let your phone run out of battery once in a while, and simply talk to one another. Because the thing that makes us human is how we interact.